Welcome to Everything Life Coaching. I'm John Kim.
And I'm Noelle Cordeau. We are the founders of Lumia.
And we're super passionate about all things coaching, and we want to share what we've learned from over a decade of coaching and training thousands of life coaches.
Let's dive into the science and magic of coaching.
On today's episode, we're going to talk about what a meta job posting can tell us about the coaching industry. Noelle, can you explain this title? I have no idea what this is.
I know. And welcome. Hi, I love you so much. And this is going to be fun. Okay. So for those of you who don't know, Facebook changed their name to Meta recently. And Facebook/Meta just posted a job a couple of weeks ago for somebody called the head of coaching.
Yeah, I saw this. Yeah.
We posted it all over our Slack channels because the job posting itself gives us as coaches and coach trainers so much information about what's happening in our industry, where it's headed. And I thought it was just a great thing to debrief because it's so, visible in terms of the upper echelons of what's going on in the space.
Yeah, there's something about a company as big as Meta posting about coaches and the coaching industry that I don't think I've ever seen. Of course there are many companies, but I don't think I've seen any of the big ones.
It's a big deal. So really specifically, the post says that they want to build a learning organization, which, fine. A lot of places want to build a learning organization. So what that really means is that they're building into the functioning of the way people work an opportunity to reflect, learn, gain new skills, and develop people. And of course, they want to support their people and they want to support the performance of the company.
So why are we talking about this? Meaning, why is this important?
Because everything's changing. And when I say everything's changing, I literally mean everything in our world is changing from an economic perspective, from an existential perspective, from the future of work perspective. The way that we are going to function as humans moving into the future is changing. And yes, the posting at Meta kind of sheds a spotlight on this. So let's get into it.
Yeah, real quick. Can I share a quick story? This is perfect for this topic. I was listening to a podcast with Mark Zuckerberg, and he said something that I actually really believed in what he said. And he said, look, I'm not someone who actually cares if if Meta stock goes up and down or what people are saying about us and all of that. That doesn't, of course he cares, but he says that he doesn't lose sleep over it. But what he does lose sleep over is if his immediate team has conflict, or if things aren't, if the relationships or people have, anger, resentment, if someone's mad at him, in his company, the relationships between their team members cause him to not sleep at night, not if, the stock prices drop or if there's something that's happening or fingers are pointed from the outside world. And I was like, oh, interesting. Yeah.
That's interesting. I mean, either he's totally full of shit or he's like so ensconced, in his own universe that like of wealth that stuff doesn't matter anymore. But, most CEOs of organizations, most heads of organizations hold like that whole view. Like you need to know what's going on inside your organization. You need to know what the bottom line is. You need to know if your stock is going up and down. You need to know what's going on in the world. And you typically don't get the luxury of saying, I'm going to care about one thing, and not the other. But I'm glad that he's taking such a human approach. And that's probably why this is coming up right now.
Yeah. It's important to him, the relationships.
Yeah. Relationships are important, period. And when we're looking inside the world of business, I think that sentence, relationships are important, period, heralds one of the biggest changes that we're seeing. So For those of you who don't know, Lumia does have a business division. It's led by yours truly, and I go into companies and I work with organizations to build internal coaching programs. We provide training for them, and I have a lot of conversations with leaders about how the hell this goes, right? And I'm seeing a lot of universal things that are happening. One of them is a generational shift. So I think if I'm trying to peg it properly, I'm like just on the cusp of millennial and Gen X, and folks who are a little bit older than me, kind of like well into Gen X is like you keep your personal life at home, you keep it out of work. How do you relate to that sentence, John?
Yeah, I guess, I mean, I'm definitely more in the Gen X.
Yeah. So everybody Gen X and above was raised, you keep your personal life out of work and you do your job.
Yeah.
And over the space of the pandemic, that paradigm changed overnight, like literally overnight.
Why do you think that has changed? And I do agree that if you draw that boundary too much, because work is such a big part of our lives, then we're not establishing, we're limiting ourselves from establishing deeper connections with people we work with, which will raise your quality of life and your productivity and everything.
Yeah. The reason that I believe it shifted was because the pandemic and then the murder of George Floyd, those two things that happened really laid bare trauma and inequality. And the pain points that surfaced for us as a society didn't go away. People kept getting sick. People kept struggling financially. People kept getting abused, for lack of a better word, by their employers. People kept seeing others in pain. People kept on not knowing how to respond, not feeling safe, not feeling okay. And then on top of it, saying, now I don't know what to do. I don't know how to show up. I don't know who I am anymore, let alone how to support others. And so the level of disruption that took place was unprecedented and unexpected, and it's here to stay.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's important. There's an evolving in that.
Yeah. And there's another really big piece of this that deals directly with the world of work. And that has to do with hierarchy in organizations. So for the last several decades, hierarchy functioned within organizations in terms of like, if you're a manager, if you're the boss, do as I say, my way or the highway.
Yep. Iron fist.
Yeah. And that's the way that humans were taught. Like, this is how you act. And humans were taught, and and this is who you listen to, right? And it wasn't really challenged in a broad and visible way until the last couple of years. And so now what's happening is that, quite simply, hierarchical leadership is no longer working. And workers, especially younger generations, have just had enough of the bullshit. So the influx of coaching in industry is an attempt to redesign the way that interpersonal working relationships take place from the inside out.
Yeah, oh man, I think this is so important, because my generation and above, there was always so much fear in our jobs. And
yes,
the whole, and I've also partnered with people who are older than me, and I noticed how they came. Their approach to business was basically, I'm the boss, and this is what needs to happen, and I never fail.
Yeah.
And it's not that they were bad people; they were smart people. That's the generation that they come from. And then this new generation, millennials, and then anyone after that, they're all basically about this is how I feel, and let's talk about this. Let's be transparent. Yeah.
Absolutely. And, I have to say that coming from the perspective of being a leader, how painful it must have been for so many generations to have to carry that weight of do what I say and I never fail. Because deep down, if you're fronting that way, it's not true.
Yeah.
And like that's a burden in and of itself. And so, when we're talking about this, oftentimes I say, hate the system, not the human, because the people who have been told that there is no other way, but a way that is harmful for themselves and others, they suffer too.
Yeah.
And so I want to make sure that we're humanizing this and that, the humans aren't wrong. It's just time to examine the systems that we've believed in for a really long time.
Yeah.
All right. So let's get into this job posting a little bit more. So the head of coaching is going to oversee specialized offerings. And this is the weird part. And this is what Meta/Facebook has in print, and be a spiritual leader to our bench of coaches and implement a compelling vision to take coaching to the next level. What do you think about that?
Yeah. I wonder if they use the word spiritual because it throws a wide net and they could be vague, but also it sounds important.
I thought it was wacky.
Yeah, I know. I think it's wacky, but I think it's their way of they don't know what word to use. So they're just like, let's just use spiritual sounds very like, for the good of the world.
Right. So okay. So here's the deal. So my job is very much like this job posting. So the job that I do on a day in and day out basis is similar to this. And so I get it. And what I think that they're talking about is the fact that, the way coaching works and what the ICF Code of Ethics states is actually spot on, that who you are, how you conduct yourself, and how you show up in the world really matters as a coach, and very specifically in coaching leadership. Because to me, when they're talking about being a spiritual leader, it's influence. How do you wield influence through grace? And that's what coaching does. John, you've seen me, develop over the last 10 years in my role. And I'll be the first one to say that when I showed up as a leader, some of the first words out of my mouth were like, I don't fucking know. Like, who's smarter than me around here? And how do we wield influence through calling on others, asking questions? And so if we're thinking about embodiment for somebody who's going to be the head of coaching, that's what's required to check your ego at the door and truly walk with grace.
By the way, another Lumia t-shirt.
Yes.
Influence through grace. Influence through grace. I love it.
Influence through grace. Yes. We're going to send this podcast to our marketing team so they can get in on it.
Yes.
But
and on the back of the t-shirt, who's Grace? Okay, never mind. Sorry.
Yeah.
Dad jokes, ladies and gentlemen.
We have entered the era of dad jokes. Dun, dun, dun. All right. Another thing that I want to point out in this job listing is that Meta currently, according to them, has 100 existing executive coaches. And the head of coaching is going to be responsible for hiring more. And all of them need to be ICF accredited. It's right there in black and white.
That's great. That's responsible of them.
It is. Yeah. It's great. It's responsible. And it signals to the industry that regulation and credentialing is the future. This is where the jobs are being created in our field. And this job posting at Meta could be one of many. So I've seen really similar postings and really similar operations within spas and retreats, within hospitality and hotels. So, what does that look like? So many different hotel chains have internal coach training programs where they're training their hospitality staff, their HR, their managers in coaching, because those folks need to actively listen and be able to communicate not only with each other, but with their clients from a true perspective of hospitality. Tech firms. This is so Meta at the end of the day is a tech firm. So this is huge within tech firms, talking about culture. How do we do this? How do we transform from the inside out? And this is also happening very heavily in financial service institutions. So those sectors like hospitality, including hotels, spas, and retreats, tech, and finance are where I'm really seeing the infrastructure of coaching grow right now.
It's needed in those areas as well, I think.
It is. It's needed in those areas greatly, and where Lumia works and where the work that I do comes in is saying, okay, well, a lot of folks out there don't know what coaching is and how it works. And so, how do we train professionals in this? And running coaches, hiring outside coaches is only effective to an extent because those individuals, while they might be great at working with a single siloed executive, don't have the values, the infrastructure, the goals of the organization in mind as they're working. And so actually training people inside of organizations is very effective.
The other thing this does is, when I'm teaching in classrooms at Lumia, most students want a private practice. But with things like this happening, because I think many students don't feel like that's the only route with coaching, and it's not true because look at how many jobs are going to open up because of companies like this.
Yes. Yes. So as we're talking about jobs opening up, there's a really important piece in this job description, and it's the people that the head of coaching at Meta is going to need to liaison with. And those are HR business partners, learning and development, and leaders.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, again, something that I have seen repeatedly across all of those sectors: hospitality, tech, and finance. So if you're thinking about yourself as a coach and you're thinking about wanting to work internally, having a really core understanding of what's going on in the world of HR, learning and development, and leadership is going to be essential to developing yourself as somebody who can work as an internal coach.
Right.
So I can shed a little bit more light on this. HR is changing so rapidly right now. So automation is really starting to creep into performance evaluation. So managers themselves are going to be less and less expected to be productivity police, and they're going to be expected more and more to become socio-emotional guides through an organization and support people in career development. Guess what? That's coaching.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing to be aware of is that employee engagement metrics are changing to include physical health, mental wellness, and financial well-being. So we're really seeing that companies are finding their own responsibility for building and managing a healthy workforce.
Mm-hmm.
And then in learning and development, right? Same deal. The demand for whole life, whole person solutions is coming to the fore. So we're not just talking about like, the stale old trainings, but we're talking about BIPOC and intersectional awareness, support for female leaders, support for parents, remote worker support, and internal culture development. Those are heavy asks of a learning and development team. So any coaching liaison is going to need to support learning and development in the how to follow up and follow through of these initiatives. And then with leadership, we touched on this, but leaders are humans. And a statistic that struck me is that across all different sectors right now, leaders are showing up with more anxiety, depression, and strain than the average worker.
Yeah.
And I am one of those,
right.
And I get it. And it's a heavy statistic because leaders need to hold a concurrent view of themselves, the world, their constituents, and their business all at the same time. And this has literally become physically impossible with the global disruption, war, the pandemic, civil rights issues, and people getting sick all the time. Like it has literally become impossible to do the damn thing.
Yeah, I think it's important. And I think part of leadership is one's responsibility to take care of herself, to be coached, to make sure that their own life is, grounded and stable so that they can be more powerful in leading. I think a lot of leaders, because of the pressure and the amount of workload, they kind of lose their life, their sense of self, and then they end up turning in their fists, their hands, open hands, turn into fists because of their state or because of their unhappiness.
This is how Darth Vader became Darth Vader.
Exactly.
So
But I think what Meta is doing is interesting. I think it's telling. I think it's great. And then also the salary starting at such a high. It says here 276K.
yeah, plus bonuses, plus
Yeah.
equity, plus benefits. So, we get this question all the time, can I really make money as a coach? Yes, you can.
Mhm.
Go work at Meta. And the field of coaching is exploding. This is evidence of it. It's not going to slow down anytime soon. So if this piques your interest, welcome to the party. Come hang out with us at Lumia. I can talk about this all day long. I love this stuff.
Yeah. It's exciting news, and it's just another thing that tells us that coaching is needed in the world and people are jumping on board. So if you're interested in coaching, if you're curious about it, come check us out at Lumia. Thanks for listening to Everything Life Coaching. If you're feeling the draw to become a coach, head to lumiacoaching.com/everything. Explore a new career that brings fulfillment, gives you a true sense of purpose, and a bold community to do it with.
Lumia is ready to equip you with the tools, training, and community you will need to reach your goals. If you're ready to build a unique coaching business on your own terms while making an impact on the world at large, Lumia is the next bold step in your coaching journey. That's lumiacoaching.com/everything.
And hey, if you're waiting for a sign, this is it.